There we go.
Hola, and welcome to Oye Cinema Club. My name is Marina, aka Dignified Couch Potato, and tonight we are going to be discussing the movie Smile, written and directed by Parker Finn. I am not alone. Tonight with me, we have Michaela, Jason, and Dino. And somewhere in the Spideyverse, Steve's with us in our hearts. So, yeah, I chose this movie because when I picked it, it was spooky season at the time, and it was like on my list of like movies I wanted to watch before spooky season was over. Um, so yeah, I'm really ready to dive in and talk about this. Let's start in with first impressions. Let's start with Michaela.
First impressions. I'd say I liked this movie overall. It's I don't I wouldn't find it super scary. So as far as like a horror movie goes, I wasn't scared, but there were some good jump scares, and overall, it's like a 6.5 for me. So I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like, oh my God, this is the most amazing movie I've ever seen. I need to rewatch it. So that would be my first impression.
Awesome, awesome. Alrighty. Jason, what was your first impression?
Well, thank you. My first impression. I never actually thought that I would see this movie. It wasn't really top of my excuse me horror list. I don't watch a ton of horror movies, but I just finished watching a ton for the spooky season. So I like this movie more than I thought I would. But it wasn't. There was a lot of really cool camera work. That was one of the first things I noticed. The cinematography was pretty good. If I recall, this movie was an independent film, and then it got picked up by Paramount. If if my memory serves me correctly, but uh, this movie reminded me a lot of other movies that I think may have done it better. And we
Mm-hmm.
kind of mentioned that. Me and Dino watched the film together, and we kind of was like mentioning movies that we thought about. We thought about like The Ring, and recently
Mm-hmm.
I saw It Follows, which was actually recommended by Michaela, and it just kept reminding me of that because it's this.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the chain letter movie. It's the chain letter effect. It's like this thing is going to haunt you until you can pass it on to someone else. It's the the proverbial physical manifested haunting of a chain letter. So that's what this movie technically is. But it's they did it their own way, which I can appreciate. And the way they did it was interesting because I was like, as I was watching it, I was like, yeah, I can very much see how this thing becomes mini movies, like a bunch of sequels, because it just sort of has that sort of effect to it, like where it's like, yeah, as long as you can keep like the characters and the subplots and the B stories interesting, you can keep running this thing back over and over and make the kills, more interesting, and then get a little bit more money and get a little bit more glossy. You can do this thing a lot. So like I said, like I wasn't really expecting much from the film, but it actually did surprise me a little bit. And I didn't hate it. I actually liked it, but not quite a bit, but I did like it. Not a bad horror flick. That was my first impression.
All right. Yeah, we watched it together. Kind of similar with Jason and also Michaela. It wasn't so much like scary or horror, but to me, I felt a lot of unsettling shots. There was a lot, which some of it was really cool, and there were some
Mm-hmm.
shots that I was like, "Oh, I didn't see that coming," right? But it was a lot of rotating cameras, and look, we can afford a drone, and so that I found very interesting. The color palettes was really interesting. Um, there was some gore, and then yeah, the ending with it being like very much like, oh, here's that horror gory stuff. I didn't think we would finally see that kind of stuff in this movie because most of it was in the head. And like we brought up the Ring, I also kept bringing out Fallen. Oh, super underrated movie with Denzel Washington. If people haven't watched it, go watch it. Uh, yeah, John Goodman. fantastic, and it deals a little bit same kind of scenario of some evil, kind of possessing thing. So yeah, overall, I liked it. Also, not a movie I would go see. Horror is normally not my genre. I can see how it'd be amazing in the movie theater, though, especially
Mm.
those like reverse and rotating shots, and just because that it almost gives you either like a vertigo sense or just uneasiness because of just like the flipping sky ground kind of views. Our bodies aren't made to be able to take that. It's not natural. The one downside is someone skimped out on their Hulu account, so we were having ads. Boy, was that a buzzkill! Like that was the absolute worst thing. Just when I was like, oh, and then it's like, do you feel anxious in this? Maybe you should take medicine. And I was like, is this part of the movie? Because that could easily be part of it. Anyway, so overall, very. I knew nothing about the film going into it, so it was interesting.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's funny because horror is not my top either. But my husband really likes it. So like every Halloween month, I'm like, okay, it's your time to shine, and we kind of alternate. And so this was definitely one I picked because it definitely I definitely can't do like intense slashers well. Like it messes up my appetite. So I do prefer more of a jump scare type of thing. But yeah, funny you guys mentioned It Follows because that's literally one of my faves. I love like chain reaction type of horror. Yeah, like we said, like it's probably been done better. It's kind of I feel like time chain like what is it? Time travel and change stuff is kind of hard to perfect because it's always a way to criticize it. It's like, but wait, if this person, like, where does it start? It's I try not to think too hard about it, but there is something about it that I like. Yeah, it exceeded my expectations though. Like, it took me this long to watch it, and like the new ones in theaters now. So it wasn't like a top priority, but in the back of my head, I was just like, oh, I want to add. I like to add some of the newer horrors in with the classics during like spooky season. Um, but yeah, like some of the jump scares were pretty cool. Like just the body, like the one when they're at the car, like totally shocks me when like she just went. I was like, oh my god! It was just, it was good for what it was. Like my husband got his horror fix, and I wasn't like extremely disgusted for 2 hours. So it was just like, but and it was also like a plot that I could keep up with. So good first impression. I don't know what I was expecting. I did see a preview for it, so I kind of could tell that it was like something where it seems kind of contagious, whatever this horror scenario is like, but I still didn't 100% know what was going on. And I kind of thought the story was about the girl on the cover. And it's like about the therapist. So I also, yeah, I was confused on who I was supposed to be rooting for a little bit. But yeah, so great. I guess we can kind of dive into to like favorite. We kind of all talked about it a little bit, but like favorite jump scare, like what's something that kind of stood out, that kind of shocked, like amused.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I may have to think about it a little bit, but right off the top of my head, I feel like that first scene where the therapist meets the girl who's going through the curse or whatever, that seems really intense. I feel like it was acted really well, and that's when the movie kind of really starts for me, and I'm on board. And I really like the girl who has the curse in it. I can kind of see why she gets the box cover of the movie. Also because like when you see her in the movie, you're like, oh, I know this is about to start, and then like by her having her face on the poster, you never see her demise coming. Like I knew it was coming, but like I think and Dino knew it was coming too, with like the Ola. But I think the average viewer probably didn't know that was coming. And then like that kill is it's pretty gruesome and awkward, and it's very memorable. I think in like the horror sort of uh, canon. I think as far as like maybe movie goes on, and make many sequels. I think that will be remembered like as probably a top sort of horror scare kill scene or whatever.
Well, what makes it even more unnerving is like they do it to themselves, right?
Yes.
That's what this compared to, unto the very end, we don't see the actual kind of demon or whatever taking over. So just like having that, and like the staring, like the not dropping eye contact while like killing yourself is very unsettling.
Yeah. I mean, I think I guess that's the point that they're going for, and I think it's effective because it's definitely creepy. Not like totally scary. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, oh, I don't want to smile to death, but it was definitely unsettling for sure. But that I think for me that kill scene it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Nightmare on Elm Street with the kill scene with Johnny Depp, just because it's like sort of comes out of nowhere and then it's very like punchy in the face.
Yeah, for sure. I was getting like I couldn't stop thinking about like the Joker. How do you think I got these small car? For me, I kind of already said it, the head falling at the car. It was just like, whoa, that was not really. I know she was having, I don't know if they were hallucinations, but like she was seeing the demonic stuff happening, but I wasn't expecting that one at all.
What about that poor little boy who's looking at his aunt out the window?
I know. And getting the dead cat.
That's why I have a mustache.
After mustache, the cat.
Right?
The dead cat thing, I actually thought that was like a really good, creepy thing. Because like, and the smile isn't like super scary. Like they're like, oh, it's, at the beginning, she sets it up like in that scene where like the smile it's like not like a normal smile. It's like the worst smile you've ever seen. But it is people just smiling. So,
I'll just smile badly.
Yeah. I kind of wish they had like CGI'd it a little bit to make it like a little creepier or something. I don't know. Because I like when the therapist is coming at her and I was like, I'm not scared. Like she doesn't have a scary smile. But like the cat was like a really good, creepy, gross horror thing. I liked the dead cat. Thought that was like, I did not expect that. I mean, as soon as the kid's like opening up the package, I was like, oh, something's in there that shouldn't be in there. But I didn't expect it to be the cat. So I thought that was pretty good.
Did she leave the receipt in the bag? I didn't know. The horror.
I'm glad you brought the cat up because that was going to be kind of my choice, right? And I actually caught it because as soon as they went to grab the box, that's when I was like, oh no, and I was telling Jason, I know what's in the box. I know what's in the box.
What's in the box?
Yeah, and so that really like I knew that was coming at that point because I was like, oh, this is it. She couldn't find him, and yeah, she's not all there. So, that was and it's a pet, and people are normally kind of like in John Wick and all that have more of a reaction to to cute cuddly pets. But yeah, Jason had definitely at the beginning the movie was started, and she's like, oh yeah, she dies in her first scene, and I was like,
I knew she was going to die too. I felt that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't.
I thought she was out of there. I was with you on that, Jason. I think my favorite jump scare was, it's not even really a jump scare, but I really like the way it was done. It's the first time Sosie Bacon, the lead, sees when she's at her house, and it's like after the patient has killed herself, she's at her house, and I think she's maybe having wine or something, and she like looks in the corner, and there's like a girl in the corner with a smile, but it's like really dark, and it's like just starting to come to light before her fiance walks in. I really like that because that's like a very elegant jump scare. Like it kind of like creeps into you, you don't expect it, but because it takes a second for your mind to process it. So I guess it's not like exactly like a jump scare, but it definitely like, it takes a second for your mind to kind of catch up. Like, what am I seeing? Like, oh, it's a person. Like so I liked that a lot. I thought that was a really good one. Like
kind
it's
of
really creepy.
Yeah, in that sense also, because it's uh the the answer in the phone, like when her therapist gets home and is talking to her, and then the phone rings and it's her therapist, and it's like those kind of things. It's like it's just unnerving, and you're like,
Uh-huh.
which one's real? Is the therapist on the phone real, or the lady sitting in front of me? And that I thought was really well done and creepy. And I even mentioned to Jason that I think the therapist is the first one that kind of we hear the demon voice, I guess. Every other time it's just kind of a creepy voice of whoever the actor or actress is. But that one is where it's kind of distorted and stuff. And
Yeah.
I think we were both kind of like, I don't think it needed to go distorted. It's pretty freaking creepy that your therapist is telling you all this shit with a smile. So, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's okay. Like jump scare, creepy moment. I feel like it's all in the same
Yeah.
genre. So it's fine. To be real, they didn't have a lot of like,
Yeah.
from Mike Myers with the knife that coming out of nowhere. But awesome. So then like I feel like we're kind of limited, but we'll just give it a try. Let's jump into favorite character.
Oh, I got one.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
Because I was thinking about this the whole movie. I was like, who's my favorite character? I kept like, I knew that this question would probably come up. So I was kind of like thinking like, who am I really attached to? Who do I really like? I really loved Sosie Bacon's performance. I think she's great. She's a Nepo baby, but like she's making her own mark. I think she's doing a good job. So, but I wasn't like, I figured she would die. It's a horror movie. I was like, I wasn't like rooting for her super hard. I was rooting for her just enough. But my favorite character, the one I had the most fun watching, was when her, like the mom at the end turns into like the super demon and is like really tall and it has like the creepy long face and the makeup, whatever. I liked that. It was just like good old fashioned horror that like walks that line right where like horror and comedy meet with like the silly face and like creepiness. I was like, okay, like I wasn't like scared, but I was like, all right, I didn't see this coming. Like, yeah, like, and she was like moved really creepy, like super tall, looked just so like icky. So I mean, like, I guess it's the demon is my favorite character, but particularly that iteration of it was I was like, yeah, I like this one. I like this one.
Thank you for identifying that attachment ahead of time. You're like, this is the one.
Well, once I got to that part, I was like, oh, this is it. I like her the best.
Just to jump on that, I think what where you're talking about the comedy horror kind of bit is like she like morphs and everything, but like keeps like panties and a t-shirt like her sleeping
Yes.
kind of attire, and I'm like, that is so weird and random. Seeing that like this demon is like, I'm wearing my whatever your mom was wearing when she was sleeping, little panties and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I like that monster too. I just want to piggyback on that just for a sec. I thought that was interesting because I recently also saw a movie called Barbarian, and
Oh,
it
you should
reminded me of
stop.
that monster.
It reminded me of that so much too. I thought of the same thing.
And I was like, I don't know. These movies came out the same year. So I'm like, did one of these copy off the other, or was it just in the ether? Because I mean, how many
Mhm.
tall, gangly, long hair, sinister monster type
Right.
weirdos? It's so the monster is so similar.
Yeah.
It's almost like that the same artists come up with the monster. It's bizarre that same monster would exist in two movies that would come out almost back to back
Mhm.
films.
I
Now, just
no,
just
go for it.
one
Yeah.
thing. Also to piggyback on what you said, the comedy element of it. Sometimes I don't know if horror movies are trying to be funny. Like, let's just throw a little jab in there to make everybody laugh. I don't know. But when she's at the party or whatever, and the cat is in the box, and she gets the cat, and she falls back into the table.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, that was funny to me. I wanted to laugh because just the way she like, come on, man, how you gonna crash into a glass table at a kid's birthday party? Like that is just, it's like drunk auntie all day. It was ridiculous and awesome, and I wanted to laugh, but it felt inappropriate.
Real
Thanks for
quick
bringing
on
that.
the
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say thanks for bringing that up because I was like, didn't something else happen with the cat? But yeah, she fell into the table. Go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the demon or whatever being in similar movies. When they talked about the dude that was researching and all that, and kind of, it seemed like it's a demon from mythology. That's kind of how called Chronos, but I can't remember the name. But it's a type of distortion of, like weird. So I think it might be in the same kind of movies that year, but it's a very, I think, specific type of demon that might have been what um, the they got their. I don't know. I'm thinking in Spanish, but talking in English, and I can think of it.
It's kind of like a little bit like Slender Man, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, I wonder how much was like budget that maybe throughout the movie we were gonna see more of the demon, and they're like, we ain't got the budget. We used it all on the drums, so we got one scene at the end when we're
On the
gonna see
drone.
it, and I think that made it spookier and scarier, right? Like not seeing it until the very
Yes.
end,
Yes.
so it's really psychological. Um,
Definitely. I didn't expect to see it, honestly. I didn't
I
think we
know.
were going to see it. So that's, I think, why I liked it so much was I was like, oh, I didn't realize you were coming, girl. Like,
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah,
That was
great.
fun for me.
Because and I think that we talked a little bit about why the girl at the beginning is kind of like in the poster and all that, because from the point of view of Bacon, right? Talk
Mhm.
about 1 degree of Kevin Bacon. Um, her evil monster is that girl, right? And we only know from her perspective that that's the first one that did that, right? And it's so that's why I think it also kind of made sense, and it was cool that yeah, you don't see this morph whatever monster until the very end. Like once we know that it's taken a lot of shapes, and
Mhm.
going to like sequels, prequels, whatever, it's like, yeah, you can jump into this in different parts of the world or whatever. The dude had gone visiting wherever where it happened. It definitely felt like one of those like jungle encounters, while he was, researching spiders at the Amazon or something like that, where came upon this demon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Uh, Favorite character, if I might add, honestly, it goes back to the first scene again. The girl Laura, whatever her name was, Caitlin Stacy. I thought her acting was just so good. I mean,
Mhm.
she really sets the tone of the movie, and she's in total distress. And I believed all of it. I was like, whatever she's going through, it's very traumatic. And then thinking back on it by the end of the movie, yes, that's how anybody would look and behave if you knew you were seeing something and you knew you weren't a nut, you knew you weren't crazy, and you knew there was a curse, but there was no like way to like express that because you don't have the words or the knowledge or anything. It's just happening in real time, and you're looking for someone to help you, and no one will. So I
Mhm.
thought all that was great, and it's like, ooh, girl, you're gonna be in that same predicament by the end of this movie. Yeah, really well
Mhm.
acted from her
Yeah.
point of view. Because at first I was like, man, you're not reacting. Like clearly you have some issues with your mom and all that, and like, what are you doing? You're not. But seeing her just like kind of fall apart and break down, and it really well done. And just the idea of like she realizes like, oh yeah, she wasn't crazy. There was something. So we know that as well. And yeah, her acting was superb for sure. I mean, the whole movie like was on her shoulders, right? Everyone. I mean,
Mhm.
she was like 98% of the movie was her in a scene, you know? Maybe 99 actually. Yeah, pretty sure. But so her acting for sure. I don't know if favorite character, but definitely just like really surprised by her.
Yeah. It was better than I expected. I knew she'd be like okay, but I thought she was really good.
Yep.
I actually didn't even think about her name until you guys just mentioned it. I forgot that that was their daughter. So that's kind of cool because I feel like I would have probably been a little bit more critical if I would have thought about that.
Ooh!
But for me, I gotta go with boyfriend or fiance. I don't remember what their status was. Were they
Oh
married?
yeah,
I don't even know.
fiance,
But
Yeah,
fiance.
anybody,
the black,
yeah,
right?
any,
Yep.
yeah. His name is Jesse T. Usher. But anybody who can hold it down when their person's going through something central, supernatural, 10 stars, 5 stars. like it's like, man, because she was acting really kind of crazy. Like I don't know.
He did
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, the cat to
He
your
did the
nephew.
best all considered.
It is so funny how like after she gave the cat to the nephew, like I felt like that was like one part of the movie where I was like, I don't know if like it's believable. Like that he was like, okay, like, did you kill the cat? All right, cool. Like they kind of just moved on from that really quick. And I was like, that like people like get arrested for that. Like it's like a
I,
huge deal.
I felt that way
Or
about her sister.
he
I
didn't
felt like
know
her.
she killed the cat. Like, he asked her, "Did you?" She's like, "No, I didn't."
Or
I
just
just
being
think,
like, I at that point. So this is not that it was again a qualm or anything, but I guess the idea of it being, an indie film, and who knows if they added scenes afterwards or not. But I didn't really buy many of the relationships or like her like until they like dropped the line. I was like, oh, they're sisters. Like a lot of these relationships, I didn't ship her with her fiance. I didn't ship her with her ex. Like I was like, they weren't really connected, but and that's why I was kind of like she did really well. Like I was very surprised with her acting because I was still very much involved in her journey, but none of the like her and Cal like everything was very much a side point to like kind of the main story of her breaking down and having this demon, you know.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird too. Like her ex comes to investigate, and they never acknowledge that they know each other, and like that's her ex. Like never. I mean, at least I didn't notice it. Never even like a look or nothing.
Until the next scene where he comes to check up, and it's so
yeah, it's
awkward.
like, yeah.
And then the nurse at the station is like, she's got a fiance, but he was like trying to show he cared. And then when she comes to ask for his help, he's like all cold shoulder, and I'm like, I thought you wanted to help her. It
Yeah.
was so that's why the relationships between the characters was an and like her it didn't really hit until they had that blowout the day after or whenever after the birthday party when she showed up
Mhm.
to try to explain herself and they had a whole thing about the mom and I was like okay here there's a relationship but it was almost like writing this he had these great conflict scenes and action like scenes that did really well. But when it was just kind of the nuanced slice of life type of scenes, I think was kind of lacking. Like in the prison, that was so heightened by that point that scene was great, right? Like
Yeah.
I could kind of see and I kind of saw that. I was again, I was like, that's why it was kind of like The Ring. If you make a copy of the VHS and then you pass it on, and so I was like, oh, dude killed bro. Like, dude must have killed someone viciously and then it passed on to someone else. So, but seeing that interaction between the two of them, it was really good. So,
Yeah, the prison scene was pretty interesting.
The
Or
prison scene I thought was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, that stood out to me in the actual preview too. But it's funny, like from the preview, I couldn't figure out how you passed it. So that was kind of like groundbreaking info because it was like it felt like it was just like you never had an answer. Like it just felt like people were just gonna die. So I feel like that's a big difference because I was gonna kind of jump into that next too, like what we feel like they could have done better. And we've kind of dabbled into it, but like I think a big thing that I loved about It Follows is like we knew kind of sooner what the situation was. Like he literally like did what he had to
Tells it
do,
out.
and then
He
he was
tells
just
her.
like,
Yeah.
by the way, I gave you this thing, and yeah.
Mhm.
And I just feel like it was kind of lacking in this because this whole time, like I know it's like a chain reaction horror from the preview, but like how and why and how do you stop?
Mhm.
We didn't learn that till like the last 30 minutes. So that's one thing I definitely feel like it would be nice to know like what we were dealing with sooner.
Yeah.
Well, as the movie began to develop, I started to think like, what is this like an analogy for? This is about trauma and passing
Right.
on trauma to people who are close to
Yeah.
you. Is this about like
Yeah.
boundaries and like giving someone else your trauma? It's about trauma bonding. Like that's what it felt like. What was going on? It felt like a little bit more darker than like the horror aspect of it. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but that's what it felt like.
I can agree with that, especially because like her being a therapist and having a therapist, like there could have been like a mental health element to it that
Mhm.
was just kind of like the day we can't get rid of our trauma without killing somebody. I didn't know that. No, but I see what you're saying. Like I didn't even know there was gonna be like a therapist and like that being thrown into it at all. So it probably did have a deeper meaning.
But I think that's like my biggest problem with the film is like I feel like they wanted it to be this analogy for trauma and how it affects you and how like you pass it on and how it affects other people. Like I feel like that's what they wanted because I kept like hearing trauma. They kept talking about it, kept coming up. The mom, she witnessed her mom's suicide. Her sister and her talked about it on the porch, but like it wasn't. It was like a lot of like, but the trauma. It was kind of like thrown in, and it felt like it was like, oh, here's like an analogy we can stick on top. Like that's how it felt to me, rather than like this is the root of it, and it's like made it really clear and really like it just didn't. Whereas like It Follows, it feels so. I think what's so scary about it is it feels like this like big deep thing that I don't know. It just feels different. This felt like they wanted to like put the trauma on top, and it didn't feel like fleshed out enough. And I think like I don't know how I'd fix it as a writer, but like I feel like it could have been done like more simply and like a little more cleaner, and it could have made it all like come together a little bit more and made that message hit harder.
For sure. I even almost wonder if I wonder what the second one's about. I probably am going to tune into that just to see if they keep it going or they stick to more of the horror side. I'm curious to see how that's going to be.
Yeah. Now I want to see the second one because I'm also curious.
Yeah, like now I'm invested as well. I do want to see the second one. It's in theaters now.
Let's go. No, I'm kidding.
School trip.
Well, I had a couple
Well,
friends who told me they didn't like the first one and they liked the second. So I was like, maybe it'll be even
Well, the
better.
second one does have higher ratings than the
Okay.
first, like
Probably
substantially.
Probably budget too. I think Dino kind of touched on it. Like maybe we're missing some things. Maybe because of like whatever budget, kind of feels like all the other characters got filmed on one day, and that's why there's like a disconnect in like chemistry. Doesn't feel like they like they were around each other long. Whenever she's with them, it just feels like, all right, girl, playing your sister's here. We got Kumar in the office. He's your boss. Like it's like it wasn't anything. It was
I never know his name either. I'm always like the guy from White Castle.
Cal Penn.
Cal Penn, that's his name. Yes.
Let me give you guys a little information about the movie. So it was it actually, when all said and done with the film, marketing and everything included, Paramount put about 17 million into this movie, either acquiring it and marketing it, but worldwide, this thing phenomenal, $217 million worldwide. So get ready for about 8 of these things. They're coming.
Smile 17 times. Like what?
I had no idea it did so well at the box office. It's incredible numbers.
It's gonna go all the way brown. The difference.
It also kind of made me think of like, I know we mentioned The Ring and It Follows. Those two are obvious connections for me, but I kind of also feel like a little bit of the vibe of, oh my God, Final Destination. I was like, it just went out of my head because it's like the death is chasing you, but one thing I love about Final Destination is it really knows that it's silly and like leans into that, and it's funny, and like and I kind of wish that Smile had like maybe leaned a little bit more into that, or had gotten a little deeper with like what they were trying to do with their message or whatever. I feel like it needed to go one direction a little bit more, and I think that's why it wasn't like it's not going to be a favorite for me, is because I just felt like it was like
It definitely, for me, I started liking it as it progressed.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel that, not that because I was fine not having all the answers, but it just seemed like, okay, we can forget about this kind of setup, but like we've kind of saying, it was just a little bit weak with that kind of respect of it. And I wonder if that was the original ending, or if it was more again psychological, or they're like, well, now we can do a monster type thing because we did get a little bit budget. Because I wasn't sure if it was like, oh, is she gonna like? Because again, you said watched her commit suicide, and that's what the sister said. And then it's like, is it in her head that it's messing with her that she didn't call for help when her mom asked, or was she remembering it correctly and she didn't call for her mom? Because I was almost thinking like, oh damn, Monster is gonna be afraid of the fact that little girl let her mom die because she was like, you're a horrible, you're a horrible mom type of thing. And so for a second, I was like, is this monster going to get traumatized by a little girl that was fine with letting her junkie or, addicted mom?
I thought about that for a second too. Like she was going to out monster the monster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I'm a
I
monster
wondered that too.
You know,
Yeah.
like, or did her kill of her mother? Did her kill of her mother already count toward her kill count? So she was good. Like I'm good. I already did some killing.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Nothing worse than kill. I let someone die, and I walk.
yeah. It's pretty.
So yeah, so
Like,
I wonder if that was going to be a thing again. Oh, and also just like if they kind of changed the ending to keep it open ended, right? Because I was like, of course, I was like, and I'm glad I was like, oh, she didn't turn her phone off. So yeah, you can track it. It's an iPhone. Maybe it's an X. He had the tracking, or just
Yeah.
the police can track the phone. And I was like, yeah, it's not one of those like cheesy movie things like I can't find you. But I'm wondering if maybe she did succeed originally, but to be like, hey, this could be better if it's open ending. Because also for a split second, I thought the cop was just gonna, as she's about to burn herself, just be like, bang, bang, bang. If I kill you before you kill yourself, that's another way to cut the cord.
That's
Or
interesting.
I thought he was going to turn around.
Me
Like,
too. I thought he was like gonna maybe leave or turn. Yeah.
Oh!
yeah, I mean,
Although I
but
did appreciate the shot in the final shot of her burning in his eye. I thought that was a cool shot. I did
Oh
appreciate
yeah,
that. Yeah.
they did a lot with camera work.
There was some flashy stuff. Yeah.
they another kind of thing too. If in the comparison game, I think The Ring is probably the best at it. Was kind of hoping like for some more deaths. It'd be nice to like see the curse like go on, and then you get to
Right.
the character that you're following with. Like the unknown is kind of like, oh, like I feel like in The Ring, like you see the people watch the movie, and then you see it kill a few people first, and then you have somebody to root for.
Yeah.
I feel like we're on the I like both parts though, like being on the edge of my seat because it follows technically also starts off with the person that you're rooting for. But yeah, it'd just be kind of cool to like see a couple more people be affected by it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Although
then
it follows that cold open is like I think that cold open's a masterpiece because it's like it ends with it's someone you don't know, and then it ends with her body all like distorted and like that's scary as shit.
Well,
yeah,
no spoilers. I haven't seen it.
Spoiler!
I probably won't see it, but because it
You
starts.
should see it because you'll still be surprised. I swear to God. Like,
Oh, I
great.
kind of
incredible.
I drowned you out. But it starts a little again disturbing because we see the girl like with the white sheet over, and the blood is just like
I thought
creates
that
a
was a terrific
smile.
shot.
So like,
The sheen and the smile with the blood, terrific. I'm like, okay.
and then there's just a long time of it, which then I am glad they were kind of like, how many days, right? Because once they start going back and then they find the video and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, so there isn't, there is a kind of average days that you go without it
yeah.
before you die.
I appreciate that timeline too. That definitely helps with the suspense.
Yeah.
And then I wish it follows would have had a number 2. Goodness gracious. Like no, but I appreciate this. I'm looking forward to maybe potentially seeing the second one. Anything else you guys want to discuss, or maybe we will
Yeah, the boyfriend knows how to curve the curves, friend, but the ex, the cop,
Yeah.
because they
The
were
cop
talking
knows
about
how
it
to
in the car, like, what's going
You
on.
broke up a little bit. What'd you say?
The boyfriend knows that how to stop the curse. He knows
Oh, the
that because
cop.
they were talking about it in the car. So
Yeah.
if he wants to pass it along and get it off him, he's aware of what he needs to do.
Well,
And
I kind of jokingly said like, hey, don't you know some crackhead somewhere that we can go and just like ridiculously kill them, and then I can pass that trauma to the other crackhead and
he's gonna be listening to all the radio.
get it into the street.
He's gonna be listening to the radio. Like, we got a shootout. All right, I'm there. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm curious. Another curiosity: if it's gonna dive into that in the next one, or is it a whole new story?
Yeah.
We'll never know what happened to Cal.
I think it's a new one. I kind of looked at the cast real quick, and none of them wasn't. What?
Spoiler.
No, I mean,
Uh,
it just doesn't seem. Well, because I feel like again, being on indie, a lot of times when they do like sequels to these kind of movies, it's like, hey, we got a higher budget, let's just like that's why I think it's cool. Like, yeah, let's follow a completely different story of like, is there more than one demon that's doing this, or is it the same demon that's been around in different time periods?
You
Mhm.
may not have dived deep enough into the IMDb because I'm seeing a key person on the IMDb in the next movie, but
Ooh.
I won't spoil.
I would love it if it's the brother-in-law.
The cat, its mustache.
The cat comes with a
Um,
Mustache.
What a cute name for a cat. Mustache.
Awesome. Yeah, we're in the see. Keep me posted if you guys see it. Cool. So, anything else before we get to final?
I have one more thing because I know we were talking about like things that we wish that it had done and whatever.
Okay.
I think like I thought what you were talking about, Marina, about like, how you kind of wish that there had been more deaths leading up to it. I think like when it started, I thought by the way that they set it up that it was going to take place more in this hospital, the psychiatric hospital. And I kind of like saw that being the direction of the film a little bit more, and us like seeing her interact with patients and maybe deal with her own mental struggles as she's like dealing with this. And I think that would have been fun if we had more of that, because it's this environment where people are like, unbelieved and like seen as crazy. And I kind of expected it to go in that direction. And like also like the psychiatric hospitals are like cold and creepy and weird. And it had that vibe in the beginning. So I really thought it was like going to go in that direction. And I think I was a little disappointed when it pulled away from that. I was like, oh, it's
So kind of a realistic thing. Like after you kill a cat and you fall down through a freaking glass table, and then somehow go and mess with the patient that was saying that you're gonna die, I'm gonna die, and all that. It's like you got to be put in the psychiatric ward as well for like. So I was kind of expecting that she would at least a couple nights be there, and
I thought so too.
Yeah.
but again, for the fact that, again, maybe in the new movie there is more killing, there is more of that, just for the simple fact that we now know kind of the rules. And kind of like the guy that was in prison was like, you ain't fucking giving me again. Get the fuck out of here. I'm like, okay, so is that going to be part of the lore that, like you're saying, if the cop dude passes it on to someone else, he's like, all right, now I can figure out how to stop it. Like I passed it on to someone else, but now let me go research to then come around. Like there's so many places to go that this one, again, just being a little timid and anyway, I'll get into it a little
Yeah.
final thoughts.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and that would have been cool. Like maybe if it would have passed on to like two people there in the beginning too, to where like it was like we didn't believe him, and then another person what? But then yeah, I mean we could criticize it all day, but they did okay for what they probably had in their original imagination that they had with the original budget. I am curious though how much maybe was changed or added once they got bought. Maybe that kind of also speaks to like it being a little bit ping pong because maybe like they didn't have as many of those actors at first.
Hmm.
Maybe so like maybe they just like re-recorded stuff with like more of a name later, which kind of also probably took away some of that chemistry too. But who knows?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I guess we'll officially dive into final thoughts and we can stop how we started. Michaela, you can go first.
Oh, so my final thoughts. So I, like I said, I think this movie's like a 6.5 for me. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't scared. And I think I saw a lot of it coming, but I do think there were a lot of really fun moments and fun scenes. And I do want to see the sequel. So there's something to be said for that I am interested in seeing the sequel. Yeah, and I thought that like I said, I said it before, but I thought Sosie Bacon was great. I was like, oh, she's great. She carried the film, and I wanted a little bit more. I didn't find the smile scary. I didn't think it was creepy, really. So that was like, because the movie's called Smile, I kind of wanted more out of the actual smile, and I feel like they could have done a little bit more to like enhance it. But other than that, yeah, 6.5 for me.
Awesome. Jason.
Yeah, Michaela basically summed up my exact sentiment for this film. Same kind of rating for it. But it does warrant a sequel, and it does warrant my attention to a sequel. So I will check it out, maybe even in theaters. Um, who would I recommend this thing to? I don't know if I would watch it again. I might, just like maybe as a reference or something. There was some cool camera work done in it. I would recommend this to horror films. I think the general horror watching audience would enjoy this film. If you've seen a bunch of horror movies, you might pick this thing apart a little bit. But I mean, if you're just a general person who likes horror movies, you probably should watch this. I think this movie's going to have. I'm going to go on record and say I think this thing is going to have a ton of sequels. So this one will probably like be in our canon of horror movies, like like the Final Destinations before you know it. So that's my final thought.
50 years later. Yeah, there's a Smile 3D, huh? Yeah, at some point.
Smile or
yeah, I kind of yeah. I guess I'll go final thoughts. Yeah, I kind of repeat what you guys are saying. Again, not really my genre. So I think I'd be a little higher than 6.5 because I was not amused, but I was surprised a little bit of like how I guess entertaining it was going in without really, knowing anything about the film or really caring to watch it because I was like, oh, it's just a horror thriller or whatever, probably really cheap. Which again, it shows probably for a cheap budget to begin with that it was pretty effective. Regardless of what we were kind of saying where it was lacking. Doubt I would watch it again. I mean, I would probably recommend it, but again, I don't have enough of a background in the kind of horror genre to be like, hey, have you seen this film? Yeah, would yeah, so I don't know who I'd recommend it to. I don't think I would watch it again. If people were like, let's go watch Smile 2, I'll be like, okay, I can do that. But I'm not like, let me go watch Smile 2 because it's just not my thing. But overall, I'd maybe put it a 7. I'd give it a 7. That's good.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we got 6, 7, 6. Awesome. Yeah, same thing. It was on my list. I'm glad I watched it. I would love finally like crossing something off of the list. I think the preview kind of hyped me up a little bit too much back in the day when it came out. But I still enjoyed it. I definitely want to see the second one. I would probably, since it's in the theaters right now, if I talk to anybody about something they want to see, I'm like, oh, just watch the first Smile. So you should definitely watch it and then go see the second one. But yeah, I liked it overall. Watching it again wise, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not. Probably wouldn't pick it, but if it was on TV while I'm like working from home or something, I wouldn't mind it in the background. Um, yeah, it was cute. It was. I'm very very curious to see how they grow on top of it and make it better because it does seem like it's getting the better rating. Um, yeah, so I'd probably give around that same 6 7 range, but overall, just yeah, just I'm not gonna say like family friendly fun film, but like easy going, suspenseful scenario that ended with no hope, but for the future. But it was enjoyable. Awesome. Well, does anybody have any other questions?
What's our movie for
No.
next week?
Okay,
That was
just getting
long
myself
enough.
off mute there. All right, great. Well, I guess that wraps up this week's review of Smile. Steve, if you're around, Mr. Steve Does TV, what do you got for us next week?
Next week, I'm so glad you asked me. I was here the whole time behind the scenes, guys. Hi. So next week, I'm so glad you asked me because it was actually supposed to be me, but because I don't like watching scary movies, it's your turn, Jason.
Oh, is that right? Steve, do you have the movie titles queued up? Can you show those at all?
Oh
So I
yes.
have two movies for you guys to watch. One of two, and so we're either going to go with Senjuro or we're going to go with Blancanieves. Blancanieves.
Blanca
Uh,
Nieves.
Blancanieves.
Blanca
So
Nieves.
you guys can pick one of the two movies, and we'll do a vote. So let's say Sanjuro will be one. We can hold up one finger for that. And if you want to watch Blanca Nieves, you could do two. Okay. So on the count of three, you guys get your minds right about which one of these two films we're going with. And on three, we'll make a decision. Everybody was set? We're ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Dois.
Steve's going two. Dino's got two. So only two votes for one. So I guess we're going to watch Blancanieves.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I voted for the wrong one.
Oh, okay. Well, Sanjuro then. Did you
I
really?
thought-
Yeah, because it's what's weird is that
Oh yeah, I see. Because Sanjuro looks like two because it's one. I
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
okay. So,
Okay, so which one, Steve? You wanted to
I,
go with
vo-
Sanjuro?
I voted for Sanjuro.
All right, well then
okay.
Sanjuro for
Okay.
next week, everybody. Sanjuro.
Okay, great.
With that,
With that, we're out of here. I'm Jason. That's Marina. That's Steve.
Michaela, Marina,
Yay.
Emily, Steve. We'll catch you next week. Bye bye.
Bye
bye.
bye.